Afternoon, everybody. Lit Soc, it's Thursday, and on a very gloomy afternoon, we are going to be looking at magic, but not Harry Potter. There, I've mentioned the dreaded word. There is life beyond Harry Potter. There was life before Harry Potter. In fact, J.K. Rowling got the idea of Harry Potter from a mixture of Enid Blyton and Ursula K. Le Guin, I would argue, but you may argue differently, Serena. So we look forward to this. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah. So over the summer holidays, I read this book called Carry On. I don't know if any of you've read it. You didn't. Sienna, you might have read it. But
Quite big.
is very Harry Potter.
Okay.
And I haven't read a book about magic that wasn't Harry Potter since I was probably in school for a long time, and it's sort of got me thinking about all the books, the great books that are about magic and mystical things and potions and things like that that aren't by J.K. Rowling. So I thought I'd talk about a few of my sort of standout ones for you, and then after I've had a little chat about mine, we can all, like we did last week, we can all mention one that we might have read that you can think of. There's a few on the table. Okay, now I'll start with Carry On. Like I said, I read this over the summer. Now this book has quite an interesting story. Basically, the author, Rainbow Rowell, wrote a book called Fangirl. And this is about a girl who is obsessed with a series called Carry On.
Mm-hmm. Very meta, isn't it?
It is very
meta.
Very meta. But the story of Carry On in this other book was so popular that the readers sort of asked Rainbow Rowell, can you write Carry On? We want to know more about these characters. And so she published it as a whole book series, and there's 3 books at the moment. So this book is Harry Potter, but that's sort of the point. The Carry On series in the book Fangirl is supposed to be a parody of Harry Potter. Does that make sense?
So it's sort of fan fiction in a way, then?
Sort of, yeah. It's quite
of
interesting.
Okay.
It's about a boy called Simon Snow, and he is the chosen one of this magical world, which is basically our world with magic in it. And he is a student at a school called Watford, and he has a roommate who he hates, and they hate each other. So he's sort of Malfoy-ish, but his roommate may or may not be a vampire. And Simon is basically full of magic. You might like this one then. He's full of magic, and his magic is so strong that he's the only one that can basically defeat big baddie. I won't say too much because I don't want any spoilers, but it's Harry Potter, but for a more modern audience. It's much more diverse. The characters are a little bit more interesting, maybe a little bit more grown up. They're older at this point. They're about 17 in this book. But yeah.
All right, so we don't have to go through 7 novels to get there.
No, he's in his final year, which is quite interesting. So you hear about his last 6 years at school, but it's sort of through little comments. You know, you hear about he's got a friend, Penelope, and he says, you know, Penelope is terrified of birds because of what happened in 4th year. Right. And that's all you hear. You don't know you don't know what happened or why, but it's kind of an interesting way to go about the story. So yeah, this is really good. If you like Harry Potter, this is definite go-to. Is it basically it's Harry Potter, but just a bit more now. The next one is The Secret of Platform 13. Does anyone know about this book?
Yes,
Do
there
you?
we go. Couple of
Yeah,
hands.
Yeah.
You're remembering it.
The wonderful Eva Ibbotson.
Yeah, this is great. This is a book that I read. I'm pretty sure I read it before or about the same time that I read Harry Potter as a very small child. It's probably one of the books that really got me interested in magical realism, which means magic but set in the real world rather than fantasy, which is a whole new world like Shadow and Bone or something, for example. I don't know, does anyone know much about this book? Have you heard much about it? Well, even from the title, The Secret of Platform 13, I think you can realise it is very much like Harry Potter. There's a lot of references. She definitely read this book when she wrote Harry Potter. I'll read you the blurb and it will make a bit more sense. Platform 13 at King's Cross Station hides a remarkable secret. Every 9 years, a doorway opens to an amazing, fantastical island and its occupants come visiting. But the last time the doorway was opened, the island's baby prince was stolen from the streets of London. Now, 9 years later, a rescue party led by a wizard and an ogre is back to find him and bring him home. But the gentle prince seems to have become a spoilt rich boy, and he doesn't believe in magic and doesn't want to go home. Can they rescue him before the doorway disappears forever? I think you can see a lot of similarities there.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I mean, it's a good standalone book. Even don't even think
Even
about
without
Harry
the
Potter and
illusions.
don't. Yeah. But there's definitely a lot of similarities here. I love this book. It's
I always wonder why they use King's Cross. I suppose it's because of where it goes to. Because
I
Waterloo
think so.
is just as intriguing, but it doesn't go anywhere terribly
No.
exciting.
And when was this?
Sussex, well, not
Yeah.
even Sussex, Hampshire and
It's a bigger
Surrey.
station, isn't it? And it's
Waterloo is
quite-
the biggest station.
Yeah, I
Our
guess.
station.
Waterloo is our
Yeah,
station.
It's in central London.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But the destinations are not exciting like King's Cross,
Maybe
which
because it's
is
called
all
King's
points
Cross.
northeast.
Yeah.
The joys of Scotland.
But yeah. When was this published? 1994. So 3
Yeah, you
years
see,
before Harry
way
Potter came
before.
out. Yeah,
Way
3 whole
before.
years before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So she got it first.
she did get it first.
So the question is who? Mm.
Genuine surprise on the face here.
She did it first.
She
Yeah,
did
this
it
is
first.
3 years
Yeah.
before.
J.K. Rowling technically copied her.
Well,
Well.
it's sort of an illusion, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
You know,
Not,
But-
not literally.
it's what they'd call. Oh God, what is it called?
Magpieing, yeah.
Well, it's magpieing, but it's an illusion. It's also sort of praising,
It's
but
paying tribute to.
paying
It's
tribute
paying
to.
tribute,
Yes,
yeah.
paying tribute to. Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
obviously it's a much shorter book. It's not really part of a series. The magic in this book is different. There isn't a magical school, but basically, if you like the sort of magic that happens in Harry Potter, you will love this. There's a lot of great stuff. There's magical creatures, there's wizards, there's witches, there's these little creatures called mist makers that are like little seals.
Oh,
And they
okay.
create the mist in the world that hides the magic. And they create their mist when they hear like beautiful music. And they're so cute. I love those characters
Okay.
in there. So there's a lot of really sweet things like that. It's a very
She's a clever writer.
yeah, it's
She's
a very
lovely
sweet
lady.
magic book,
Yeah.
and there's a lot about the magic of nature, and it's a very natural book. The island that they travel to is really lovely. So, whilst it's a lot like Harry Potter, it's also its own story. Does that make sense? You can have a bit of both, but yeah, this is a very good one. I think next I'll talk about Charmed Life by Diana Wynne Jones. Has anyone heard of Diana Wynne Jones? Yeah, sort of. Do
She's
you
brilliant.
recognise the cover?
She's absolutely brilliant. She's one of the best
No.
fantasy writers ever.
Yeah.
Best known book is probably Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah.
Howl's
Oh,
Moving
yeah.
Castle.
Yeah.
I always forget she wrote that.
Calcifer. Oh, Calcifer.
She wrote that, which then got turned into the.
Yeah, well, the least said about that, the better.
But that
That's
might be
another
where you heard
discussion.
of
Let's
that.
leave that for now.
Anyway.
Studio Ghibli?
Studio Ghibli. Yeah, you're not a fan.
No, not when they turn things like Howl and Wizard of Earthsea on their heads.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I know she is.
Anyway, that's a debate for
Part of
another
that.
day.
Yeah.
Maybe
Let's
that
not
can be a
digress
whole
here,
nother Lit
people.
Soc. But anyway, yeah.
Yes, that's a
this
very
is-
good book adaptations. The hours we won't get back.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, we'll be doing
true.
that again, don't worry.
That would be a good. Yeah, that is a good one.
Sorry, Miss Rio.
No, it's
Say
all right.
it.
Sorry,
Thinking
sorry.
about Howl's Moving Castle now. Yeah, so this is the Worlds of Christomancy. It's a whole series. I think there's 5 of them in the series, and this is the first one. And this is basically a classic at this point, I'd say. It was published in 1977, so 20 years before Harry Potter came out. And it's one I really remember from school. I remember these covers. The new series was published while I was at school. And I think they were republished because of the popularity of Harry Potter. Would make sense.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
But I loved these in school. I remember everyone loving them, and it was a really big resurgence of magic, and these are just great. So it's about a magical girl called Gwendolyn and her brother called Cat, who
Gwendolyn's
is
ghastly, isn't she?
Yeah,
She's just
horrible.
ghastly.
But he does not have any magic. And they get invited to stay in this place called Christomancy Castle, owned by Mr. Christomancy. And basically he's going to teach Gwendolyn how to use her magic. But as it turns out, that's maybe not what happens. And Cat is more involved in the world of magic than you might think.
Clues in the name, isn't it? Cat.
But it's in a really interesting world. It's in another dimension to ours. So there are little things in it that at first you think it's just in our world, and you think it's maybe the Victorian times, and magic is well known to people, but there are sort of streets in London, and that's like the magical street, and things like that. They all kind of interplay together. But you slowly realise that it's not the world as we know it, because Atlantis is a city, and things like that. There are little nudges to the history being different, which I thought was quite interesting. But yeah, it's essentially a world like ours where magic is well known, and there are lots of different types of magicians and warlocks and wizards and enchanters and things like
He's
that.
very flamboyant, isn't he, Christomancy?
Yes,
Great big moustache.
He's very well dressed and very fancy,
and a fancy dressing gown.
He's a very good character, but it's a very classic style of magic. So you've got sort of potions made of Eye of Newt and things like that, dragon's blood, objects are turned into cats and buttons are turned into coins and things like that. So it's a very classic style of magic on one hand, but you've also got some really weird and wonderful types of magic and spells and potions that are done, which is, I love that kind of stuff. It is from 1977, so if you do plan on reading this, there's some things you might have to take with a pinch of salt, because it's how old now? Nearly
It's about 40, over 40 years old.
Over
Yeah,
40
it
years old.
is.
So there's phrases and things that we wouldn't necessarily say now, but just a heads up if you do plan on reading it. But that doesn't take away from the enjoyment of it. But yeah, there's a magical castle. There's a wizard with lots of secrets. There's a magical battle at the end, which is great. One interesting point, the character Christomancy, who is sort of the head magician, he is often called you-know-who in the book. Because if you say his name, he will appear.
Yeah, that's right. You call him up, don't you?
Which I think you can see a little
Again.
something cropping up there. I'll read a passage here, which shows that. Janet managed not to point this out. One thing, she said, if we're going to make a proper go of this, do promise me you won't happen to mention you-know-who. When Kat did not understand this either, she explained. The man Mr. Nostrum kept calling that person and the master of the castle, you know. Oh, said Kat, you mean Crest. Quiet, bawled Janet, I do mean him, and you mustn't say it. He's an enchanter, and he comes when you call him, stupid. Just think of the way that Mr. Nostrum was scared stiff to say his name. You can see there.
I mean,
Mr. Nostrum is-
out, though, if you just say his name in like
Yeah,
Antarctica.
maybe.
Mm.
But, yeah, anyway. It's a great book. It's very, very, very magical. It's in a magic castle. Lots of spells, lots of dragons, lots of potions. If you like magic, this is the book you want.
Lots of things that run through a lot of the books as well.
Yeah.
Dragons. She's very fond of writing about dragons.
Yeah, lots of dragons.
Yeah.
Lots of mystical gardens as well, which I love.
Yeah.
I love a mystical garden. Magic gardens. But yes, it's definitely a classic. I definitely recommend it. It's only short as well. I read it in about 2 days. Very easy read. She's great. I'm going to read the rest of them now. I think I only read that one. I don't remember reading any of the
they're
others.
really worthwhile.
Mhm.
This is another one of the same series, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a few more here I've got in the series. This one,
Which week? Yeah.
this one here. You can see the art style is quite similar, I think. If you're looking
Link
for
them
these
together.
books, you know
Yeah.
what to look out for.
Yeah.
The last one I want to talk about properly is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Have any of you read this?
I've read a bit of it, but I haven't finished
Okay.
it. Isn't there a movie?
I've heard of the film.
There's a movie,
yeah.
There
yeah.
is a movie.
Yeah.
Don't bother with the movie. Don't bother with the movie. But this is not a book that I think screams magic when you first think about it. I think it seems a bit more sci-fi or fantasy, but actually it's about a magical school on a hidden island in Wales with lots of students with strange powers.
The X-Men.
The X-Men, yes,
but like
it is,
magic
isn't it?
X-Men. They can all do sort of these magical things. There's lots of time travel, there's monsters, there's different worlds and, you know, big baddies and people that can turn into birds. So I think don't discount this as a book about magic. If you like that kind of thing, I'd definitely say this is a good one. One of my favourite things about this book actually is that the author, as you can see on the cover, I think he found a collection of really strange and wonderful old photos, and that was what they based the book around. So you have got the page here. So these are some old photos that the author must have found that are just completely bizarre from the Victorian era probably, and based their characters off this collection of strange photos. I think, hundreds of years ago, it was very popular to create art through photos. Photography was quite a new thing, and so they would basically Photoshop photos, but physically. So what you could do is you would take a photo and you'd cut a section out of it, for example, and you could make it look like someone was floating because they didn't have any legs or things like that. I think that's what those photos are. But obviously at the time, people probably thought that a lot of it was real because they didn't understand the science of it. So the whole book is based around those photos, which I think is really cool. I really like that. Yeah, those are the ones I've read, and those are some of the ones that stand out to me. I did want to mention 2 that have come out quite recently. That is Witches Steeped in Gold and Children of Blood and Bone. I haven't read either of these, but these sort of seem to be the new era of magic books that are coming out. Very diverse, very multicultural, often not set in the Western world. I think both of these are set in Africa and are about a different type of magic. These are all very Western white stories about sort of quite classic styles of magic that we know. Do you know what I mean? Like newts and dragons and spells. But there's lots of different types of magic, and these are some of the books that I think really show that. And this is on my to-be-read list next. But don't just think that magic is this kind of stuff. There's loads of different types of magical stories that you can delve into. That's it, really. Those are my choices. Are there any magical books that anyone wants to talk about? Yeah?
Well, I'm not personally a fantasy sort of magic person, and I read a lot of books that aren't to do with that, apart from like prep authors who come in and like Greek mythology. But I have read this, A Pinch of Magic, and
do you want to show the camera?
Yeah,
Pinch of Magic.
Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. And I read it a couple years ago, I think, and I don't think I ever finished it because when I was younger, I wouldn't be able to keep on a book for too long, and it is quite long for a 10-year-old to read. But it's basically about this girl who lives with her grandma, and there's 3 sisters, and she has a family curse. And she needs to break this curse because I can't remember exactly, but I think it's something to do with the fact that she can't leave the island.
Okay. So a little bit Rapunzel-like.
Yeah. And apparently these like magical objects will change their fate, and but their grandma is very, no, you can't do that. It's dangerous. You can't do any of these things. And it's all about how these sisters, who are quite young, I think, they're all under the age of 20, or 18, and about how they figure out how to break this curse. And one thing I do remember is I always remember how much I loved the characters. I might not have loved the plotline as much, but I love the characters. I just fell in love with them. I thought that their personality was amazing, and the way that the author described them was amazing. So, yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I've seen that circulating a lot. It's got a really good cover. Haven't got around to reading it yet, but I think it's part of the series now. Maybe if you reread it now you're a bit older, you'd enjoy the story more. Maybe that's part of why it didn't. Yeah. I mean, it's called A Pinch of Magic, so it's definitely about magic.
Yeah.
She's in another series as well called the 13 series, like the 13 Treasures, the 13.
Okay.
So she's quite she's been around for a while, Michelle Harrison. She's quite prolific.
Sure.
So.
Thank you. No, that one does sound good. That's why I brought it out. I've seen it everywhere. It's clearly popular. Anyone else want to talk about any of them, or are you not really much of a reader of magic?
What I can think about is The Ransom of Dawn by Siobhan Dowd, but I think you kind of would have to argue if that was magic or not, because the villagers on the island clearly believe in the magic, but it's not true. So the setup is, from what I can remember, the girl, and because she was born in a certain time on a certain day, she has to be executed for like luck, to bring the island luck, and so it's the thoughts that she has on the evening before she's going to be executed. But I kind of like the idea of everyone else believing there's magic, or like the gods is what it is, but actually it's really not. But the other thing I can think of is I can't remember what it's called, but Melinda Salisbury wrote a trilogy about a girl who's an executioner for a royal court, because if she touches someone they die, and that's quite a good one. I'll try and think of the name of that. The Sin Eater's Daughter trilogy.
Oh yes.
I don't think I know it.
And the other one I can think about is Enid Blyton, The Magic Faraway Tree.
Oh,
yeah.
If you want to be traumatised, watch the animated series of that. It's haunted my
Animated
dreams.
series?
Yes,
What's
don't
that
watch
called?
it.
What's that called again? Is it called?
The Magic Faraway Tree. And I always got so stressed when they couldn't get back to the gate in time.
Yeah. I was so scared they would get stuck there.
Yeah,
It was
same.
my worst fear.
That was a cause of my anxiety anyway.
You should try reading Mary Poppins.
There was that.
Yeah.
There was.
Tuesday.
I loved that one. Yeah.
I
there was
love
that-
the trilogy like so much.
I read it when I was like 7.
Yeah. One of my friends gave it to me for my birthday when I was like 6 or something, and I have read it countless times. Like all 3 of them, they're so good. It's very magic. Like they live in a magic tree.
Yeah.
Well, they don't live in a tree, but a lot of characters do.
Sure.
It's really, really amazing.
Isn't there one about a rocking chair?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause-
runaway.
Yeah, I swear I read that, and I remember going down and finding my sister's rocking chair and sitting it, thinking that it would actually like be magic.
Of course you did.
I think I sat there for like hours or something.
Yeah.
It did nothing. There was a quite boring
Could have
chair.
done. You didn't know that it wouldn't have done.
I don't want to sit there for days.
Don't know if it was a book, but I definitely know it was a film about where the wild things are. And when I watched that, I remember liking the book, but as soon as I watched the film, I don't even think I'd be able to watch it now. It's so scary. It's horrible. I don't know. I mean, no offense to the illustrator, but they are really creepy. Yeah. So
They're only creepy from afar. If you look close up, they're knitted. The monsters are knitted. Yeah.
They're like
Look at
teddies.
it again.
But again, that's one that you wouldn't.
But you wouldn't
think
look at
of
it close up.
when it's
Only as a toddler, which you wouldn't remember.
True. I
That's
think we do
gets
have
into
that
us.
here.
Yeah, we do, because we it's one of the books that we used to look at in English language A level for language acquisition of children. So,
You could say that a monster calls is magic.
monster calls, yeah. Very ancient magic, isn't it? It's pagan yew tree calling. Yeah,
And then obviously there's stuff like the
Wild
Odyssey and the Iliad and the Aeneid.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
it's
Circe.
there's all sorts
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
there's some magic.
Circe is, she's a magician, isn't she?
The gods, yes.
Monster Calls, any of you? How many of you are familiar with that one? Monster Calls, Patrick Ness, apart from Lily. Anyone else? You want to tell everyone a bit about that one then?
Well,
And the magic involved.
I'm just going to depress everyone today. There's a kid whose mother is dying of cancer, and
True.
he gets visited by a big tree every evening at the same time, and I can't
It's
remember.
the Green Man, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't quite remember. It was a few years ago. I saw the play as well at the Old Vic.
The old bit's brilliant.
That was
Saw
great.
Mallory Towers at the old bit.
And he tells him these stories to teach him
It was like
lessons
ages
and
ago.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I have a poster of it.
They're really clever lessons as well. aren't
Very
they?
clever.
You think it always starts out quite cliche. You think it was just going to be an obvious fairy tale, but they've all got a twist that subverts your expectations. That's what I love about those tales.
Yeah.
It tells them.
The film is on. It might be on Amazon Prime if you want to watch it. But yeah,
The film is good.
the film is quite
It's
good.
Liam Neeson, isn't it?
It is as the monster, and they beautifully animate the 3 tales too.
Yeah.
So definitely worth a watch.
Siobhan no doubt had the idea, and then because she died, Patrick Ness had to carry it on. That's a sad tale, but it is a lovely, wonderful book.
I don't know.
Sorry.
Do you want to finish? Oh wait, I just keep on thinking of this character that I know I used to read about when I was younger, in called like the moon face man with like a face of like the moon.
That's from the Magic
That from the Magic Faraway Tree, because I was thinking, is it that or is it something like a story tree house or something?
It is a bit scary. I realise everyone used to love it, and now I've realised it's quite creepy.
Yeah, it is a bit confusing.
Why is there a man with a face and a guy with lots of sauce?
You never only.
Not at all.
I got a book from my friend for my birthday. Never actually read it.
What is it?
You probably should.
It's like a selection of winter stories. It's like blue on the cover, like snow and lots of people playing. I think I read like a few chapters, because like each chapter was like a different story. But then it just got a bit boring.
You might
Still
be
there.
You should read them because your friend gave you that as a gift, and your friend wants you to read it.
Whenever I don't finish a book, I still have it because I feel bad that I'm not finishing it. So I always come back and finishing it one day.
Well, if it's short stories, you can dip in and out, can't you?
I hardly have any like paper or like hardcover books. I just have on my fireplace all the best ones I've ever read, and so if I ever need to recommend anyone a book, I can just immediately go to that, whereas everything else is just on a Kindle.
On my desk, I have like the Twilight box where okay.
This
The
is
book.
new Harry Potter. This. Twilight.
Yeah, I've a shelf dedicated to
Sorry,
it.
Sophie.
Same. So I have the Twilight box, and I put all like my favourite classics in it, and then around it I made a shrine of Twilight.
Did you? I did that too.
I
did it with Rob Patterson.
Yeah, I did it with Rob
Yeah,
Patterson.
yeah.
I have like gemstones, and I put it all around.
I had his photos all up on my wall.
Yeah, I posted them.
Using.
Yeah, you don't want it.
Kind of feel bad for my parents.
Oh yeah. I probably I'm gonna spend like thousands of pounds on stuff.
Oh, I
There's
see.
a Twilight, there's a Twilight fashion style.
To be fair, I was in my obsession with Twilight before I had TikTok, so that was just a.
I don't
thing
even
that
have
was
TikTok.
You knew it.
I remember reading Twilight. Okay, this was like a year ago, but I read Twilight, and I remember my friends. So Josephine, she and Ella, they're my best friends. They were reading it, and I remember seeing another girl reading it at Playground. And I was like, "Oh, what's that?" And she's like, "Twilight," and everyone was like, and like my best friend was like, "Leave her in peace, it's Twilight." And I was like, "Oh," and I told my mum, and I was like, "Oh, mummy, there's this book. A few people are talking about it. It's called Twilight."
I think I need to bring forward.
And
my
then
copy of Vampire Slayer.
My mum surprised me with this box of the white version of the Twilight books. Because it's normally black.
Ones are so much better.
They do get dirty really
Yeah.
quickly.
This-
Don't get them.
My second cousin made me watch because she had an obsession with Twilight when she was younger, when they first came out, because she's a lot older than me, and she made me watch all the films, and like a year later in lockdown I was like, you know what, I want to re-watch these, and then I read them.
I read them first.
I was in a year of obsession, so there we go.
That's fine. I've been over a year.
With my sister.
I remember, like, I picked it up and I didn't put it down for like days though.
Yeah, let's move on, please. Emily,
Do a Twilight Lit Soc.
Oh, we should do a Twilight.
Yeah.
you can do a Twilight Soc.
Talk
I'll do
about
Buffy the
how
Vampire
Bella's a horrible character.
Yeah, she's so depressed in you, Minnie.
She's horrible.
Sorry.
Save it for Lit Soc.
Bella.
We will book you in, Sophie, okay?
Okay, I'll make notes.
Emily.
No, I actually will.
And I spent the whole time thinking about a magic book. And the only one that I could think of, I don't know if it's really magic, but I think it's called Raw.
Oh, yeah. Jenny McLaughlin, is it? Is that the author?
I read it last year, I think. But it was like, it was really, I think I have the second one. I think she has a second one. And I really liked the first one. Because wasn't it like they were in the attic and with like loads of old, this is another book, there's like lots of old furniture and everything, and they're at grandpa's house, and the brother and sister, but they drifted apart a bit. So, but the brother still wants to play because he's younger, I think. So he like still wants to play with his sister, and he still wants to like be friends because he's quite alone. He doesn't have many friends. Well, she has like other friends, and she doesn't really want to play with him anymore. But then he actually goes into Raw using the furniture. Like he was actually playing. They used to make a map when they were little, but it comes to life.
Oh, right.
And he goes in, but his sister doesn't believe him. But then she somehow gets taken into it, so he has to go as well. And he has to like try and save her from this like scarecrow dude. He's like a scarecrow villain, and he's like ravens. And they go like this is the path that they made, the story that they made when they were younger. That's all come to life now. And like they go through the path and like go everywhere they meet people somehow in the world, and then they have to fight the guy, scarecrow dude, and
then they now there's a second book, and I haven't
Bit
read it
Narnia
yet.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
I was
I've
thinking
It
Labyrinth.
reminded me a little
They were
bit
both
of
both, maybe.
Jumanji.
Yeah.
I've not read the book, but my sister has, and she really liked it. So I've only read the blurb. That's as far as I got.
I think the illustrations as well, and they're really pretty.
Sounds good. Well, see, a book about magic doesn't always have to be spells and potions and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
It can be magical.
Going to world.
Well, it's like you alluded to these two, you know.
Yeah,
as an
exactly.
example of that, so
Yeah, I think often we do think of very classic,
yeah.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
terms
right.
of parallel worlds, I know we've said the magic faraway tree. What I love about it is because the tree itself is magical, and then each separate world on top of the tree is got its own set of rules and magic, and it might be magical, it might not. Just everything's so different about it, and that's why it's kind of like a world inside of a world, which is it's really nice. And
the topsy turvy one.
Yes.
well, everything's upside down.
Yeah.
Oh. I never read these. I think I would have liked them.
I think I'm going to read them again after this.
Yeah.
Do it.
Because I don't know how they describe it, but it must have been described the background, the setting really well, or my imagination just took over. But I can imagine it picture.
You can see it in your head.
A cottage and I walk over the field and then jump over the ditch to get into the forest, and then the way I need to walk to get to the tree. I can imagine going up the tree, what it looks like, what the rooms look like what the ladder to the top looks like, and all the houses inside, and then how you can get to the world at the top. I don't know, I can picture it crystal clear in my mind.
It's a sign of a good book if you can do that.
I read it 5 years ago, 4 years
Yeah,
ago.
I haven't
still
read
can
it since
remember
I was
it.
9.
I still
It was a long time ago.
When I was below 7, my mum always made me used to read magical books because she used to love them. And the thing is, because I was under the age of 7, I now just don't remember them. So I've
Maybe
read a
you
lot,
need
but I
to-
just don't remember
I used
them.
to absolutely love books about fairies and magic like that, in forests and meadows. And I don't actually remember the books now. I just have vague impressions of feelings of happiness and magic, and just you can't really recreate that feeling, but you want to. 'Cause it's really nice.
Eloise, is this? I can't remember. Is this your thing or not? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Fantasy.
I mean, I read lots of fantasy, but most of them aren't. I wouldn't really count them as magical books. They're more fantasy, but dystopian fantasy.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have a book about fairies. I've probably read it when I was 7. It's probably a picture book, but I remember it, and I remember reading it over and over again. So I think I'm gonna have to remember it. So this is gonna. So there's a girl called Sophie. I know, great name.
That's probably why I liked it.
And it was her birthday, and she thought everyone forgot, so she went to cry in their treehouse. And then, I do remember it now. It is not a picture book. And this fairy comes and comforts her, and then they think they go to a different world, and then her sister comes out and looks for her, and then that. And there's got lots of fairies in it, and there's fairies for different things.
Okay.
And in another book, I think, I don't know if it was the same book or just another chapter, so the girls have, I think it was a forget-me-not thing, and they have these bracelets, and if you take it off, it means you forget everything about the world of magic and all these fairies. And so they're playing a riddle with their friends, and the younger sister has to take off her bracelet to go in the river, so she takes it off, and they have to, the fairies and the older sister team up to get the younger sister back into the world of magic somehow. And I think
fairies.
they do.
Fairies are tricky. Cold-blooded.
Fairies.
Yeah.
And there's
Keep
a
you
lot.
under the hollow hills forever.
I don't know what it's called, but now I want to read it again. I don't know where it is.
I remember a magic book, I think, called Tom.
Cold Tom.
Yeah, that was a magic book.
That's what we read last year, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. What was Tom?
Yeah.
What was Tom?
It is. L.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I do know one book.
Cold-blooded, wasn't he?
Book. Yeah.
I haven't read all of it, but I have started it, and I have seen it in this library.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Ichabog.
Yes. Jake.
Yes, it is.
It's not Harry Potter though.
Not Harry Potter. So
Not
it's
Harry
okay.
Potter.
I read that as it was coming out. Yeah.
I've never read it, but all my friends started reading it, so I'm going to read it.
It was published on
happy here, so
Safari
you
or
get a piece of
something, like
it.
everyone.
Is it good?
I've started to get to the start of it. It is good, but I've just gotten to the bit where they've just found out that someone's seen the monster, the Ichabog.
Yeah, there's this like Ichabog thing in a cave or whatever it is.
Is it like a dragon type thing?
It describes it on the back of the book.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean I haven't read it because I read it as it was being published on like Safari because there was like an Ichabog website.
I remember that.
Yeah, my
We
year
talked about
6
that in year
teacher
5.
used to read it like every after like
I think Miss
lessons.
Fraser must have said something
Yeah.
about it. I remember it was like, we just came back from home learning, and she was like, okay, there's this new J.K. Rowling website thing. You can read it. It's here. The website is on your iPad, so you can go check it out.
So it was published online before.
So it was published, every chapter, yeah.
Oh, because
It's a bit
I
like
remember. I recognise the name, but I don't know where it was from.
It was a bit like how Charles Dickens did it, like published a chapter. Yeah.
I am reading
Well, not online.
I'm not sure you
not
can
really.
compare
He went on the website and he.
But
Yeah,
I
it
take
was
his
like-
point
not
though,
press
Yeah.
and that's good knowledge, Steve.
Yeah.
You did do a bit about it, yeah.
Yeah. But
Oh,
it was.
Good to know that.
I'd never finished it because I just stopped checking the website. But it was good. It was very different to Harry Potter.
Was it very magical or was it
Yeah.
more like
Well,
fantasy?
actually, I think it was more.
Modern World.
It's like a murder mystery royal thing, and I remember vividly like this family and like their dad or something has a little girl and she gets like taken away by these like royal people, and these royal people are like practically insane. These people are like trapped.
I think I know why. It's
Yeah.
because the king sort of like made the mother work, and then obviously the mother died because she was ill, and then obviously she when they were playing in the royal park, I think she said some rude things about the king, and he was trying to like impress to try and be like a perfect king.
Yes, I do think I remember that. Yeah, but it was it does have fantasy in it though, because it's about how the king is trying to slay the Ichabog. Yeah.
So it's kind of a combination of a bit of magic, bit of fantasy, bit of monster, bit of
Yeah.
bit of everything.
Yeah.
I am reading it like right now. It's in my
Enjoying it
bag.
Yeah.
Good.
Make sure I'm not spoiled.
Yeah, don't give any spoilers. I haven't read it, but
And has anybody read
Yeah.
Terry Pratchett?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my
My
friend.
dad has like a lot of Terry
Does he?
Pratchett books.
Oh,
given to me.
you probably
It
read
was
them
was
when
it
he
year
was
4 or year
Yeah.
5?
young.
I think
Was
it
it
was.
Terry Pratchett? It's something about like Eric. I don't know. It was like
Eric.
Eric?
Yes.
Was it
Eric.
called Eric or did it have
Yeah.
like something else?
No,
in
it's
the
called
name?
Eric.
It's called Eric.
Eric.
It's on my bedside table. I haven't read it yet because there's like quite a lot of books on my bedside table because they don't all fit on my shelf. But so I put it on my bedside table thinking I was going to read it really quickly, but it turns out I haven't. But I was quite intrigued by the cover because it's like got some really fancy font that looks like it's really old and like ancient, something you find in a museum. And it's just crossed out in like a fake red marker and written Eric on the top. And I think it was quite intriguing to be honest.
Future interest.
But I actually haven't read that.
So is that about magic? Do you know? Have you read the blurb?
I don't think I can't really remember.
I haven't read that one.
Because I was reading a different magic series, which is quite popular, School for Good and Evil. Which
I
really
love that
Nice.
It was a bit scary. I was too scared and I stopped reading it.
I
Yeah,
really,
there's one,
really
actually,
love
one.
it.
It's on my-
It's on my Kindle. I should start reading it
I
again.
really love that
That
series.
sounds so
actually.
scared.
Hugely
Yeah, it is
popular.
magic. Yeah.
I got to the war part and I found it really boring.
I don't know the order.
Most
I
books you have
think-
second, third, fourth.
Yeah, no, but it
Yeah, and
doesn't
this
write
is-
it, but you can find out online.
Yeah, I
think
just
the
Googled
second
it.
one's A World Without Princes.
What's it about?
Yeah,
So it's about like two girls who are, one's a stereotypical witch and one's a stereotypical princess. And then I think it's like every
Every
12 years or something,
two children are picked, could be a girl and a boy or could be anything. One's perfectly good and one's perfectly evil. So they're picked to go to the school at night, and these two girls, everyone in the village thinks they're going to be the ones to be taken. So Sophie's the princess and Agatha's the witch. So Sophie becomes Agatha's friend at the very beginning because she wants to impress what they call the schoolmaster, who's the one who kidnaps them and takes them to the school, because she really wants to be in the good.
Are they taken out of permission?
Yeah. They're just stolen pretty much. I think the blurb starts with something like, every 12 years two children taken from a small town called Gaval.
Yeah, it's like
something like that.
Yeah.
And but basically it's a school for magic, and the schools are separated into good and evil, and they're not
like a bridge going between.
There is a bridge,
there is, but it's like blocked. You can't get across.
Yeah, you can't get in if you're good, and
you can't get
evil, and you can't, and vice versa. But I really loved the book because I think, I don't know, I just really liked it. I guess it's partly because at the very beginning kind of tricks you, because Sophie, it turns out she's quite horrid, to be honest.
Yeah, she gets...
And Agatha turns out she's a lot nicer than she actually seems, so they're kind of sorted into the wrong places. And at first they don't like it, and then they grow to like
Doesn't
it.
Agatha
and,
really didn't want to go?
Yeah, Agatha only went because Sophie was pulled away,
and she wanted to like
protecting her.
Go with
which
her.
was kind of the first hint
Sophie
that she
left
was better than Sophie.
Sophie left biscuits for the schoolmaster.
Yeah, it was really funny. She tried to like impress the schoolmaster,
dad
making
didn't
him
want.
think
Can't go wrong with biscuits.
Her dad didn't want her to
but
go.
Agatha ate them, so.
So the girl that you think is like perfect.
Yeah, she's not. She's evil. Doesn't she get like a curse thing?
Yeah.
And I got to the war part, or like the second book, I think, and I was scared and I stopped reading it.
I think I got to the second book, but the thing I really liked about the first one, they've got the school for good and they've got the school for evil. The second one, at the end, I don't want to spoil it, but everything gets turned upside down, and in the second one, basically, they turn up after leaving for quite a long time. They get back to the school. I'm not going to say how, but turns out that the school for good is now called the school for girls, and whereas their uniform used to be like a pink frock, like high heels and things like that, it's now I think it's a plain dress with blue butterflies.
Oh, yeah, because there's like new teachers and
then
stuff.
and then there's a boys' school, which is the school for evil, and they're kind of outsiders now.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really interesting how they changed between the two things, and
it was a bit.
The ending of the second is a huge cliffhanger, but I lent the third book to a friend when I was on still on the second book, and she hasn't given it back.
I remember.
So I haven't been able to read the third book, so I tried going straight to the fourth, but it didn't really make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. You skip one.
I don't know which it is actually.
Dave, can you just grab them? Can you see them? It's on the fourth shelf on the top.
It's very thick.
It's the only.
It's so big.
Bit more to the left.
Left.
To the left. Keep going. Left. That's right.
Left. That's right. Left. Other way.
Left there. There we go. Bit more. A bit more.
That's
the one.
That's the one. Yeah.
There we go.
They get married and stuff, and you think the prince and the princess. You think that's not the fourth. That's like fourth.
Something out there is hurting the students, and your quest is to find it.
You think the prince and the princess, the perfect prince and Sophie are going to get married, and that's what Sophie wants, but it doesn't.
Yeah, it's got a bit of romance in it.
Yeah, it has got.
But it's kind of complicated.
I read it because
at one point they like the same person, but that same person
is
like it's really complicated.
I only read it because my friends were doing a project, and I love doing projects with them. And they were like, oh, I'm going to do this in a week, and I was like, okay, I need to read it. So I kind of rushed it, and then once I finished the project, I kept reading it, and I got a bit scared, so then I stopped. So I might actually read it again.
I picked up. So on my shelf, I got Anne of Green Gables. because I just grabbed a really.
That's not
I just
That's not very
Actually,
magic.
it wasn't. It
Very
wasn't Anne
special,
of Green
but not
Gables,
magic.
It was like Anne of Avonlea or something like that. One of the
Oh, yeah.
ones.
The other one.
My mum got the box set after I tried that one, which is obviously not a magic book. But I grabbed it because at one point it was like really tense, and I was like, I don't know if I can read this before going to sleep.
Needed something
But
calm.
I
Yeah.
did, but I waited until I got to like a.
I got nightmares.
This has a lot of...
I got nightmares after School of Good and Evil.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that there are lots of things to be influenced by, as well as things to influence.
So yeah,
Do
that
they
was,
get taught magic at the school?
they do get taught
Yeah, they
magic
do.
at school. So but
There's like
taught how to be like a classical
There's like
villain.
and then the good is like Pamper Princess,
Yeah,
Prince,
and,
or the
It
yeah.
changes later
There's like a chamber thing. There's a chamber of
There's-
torture.
so they have
They're meant to
the-
like it.
They have the groom room. In
And
the,
then
in the
then
good
and then
tower,
the
and
evil
it's
one. They
like,
have
they've
the
got like a mini
they've like
spa,
and
got
baths
kind
and
of
stuff.
really nice
And people
treat
do your
yourself.
nails and stuff.
And then they've got
And then the
doom
evil
room,
school is the
which
doom,
is
and they like
a
punch
torture
you
room.
and
So there's like a beast
break
and
your
it, like,
things.
Some books
And people are meant to like the evil students meant to like that.
No,
Oh, no,
I don't know why.
The slide will kill you, and I stopped the first chapter.
I was scared after that one.
If you're not evil
Maggots
enough
coming
in
out of
this
his
book,
eyes.
and if you're not good enough, you're turned into a plant when you graduate.
What the? Oh yeah.
Turn into like a plant or turn into an animal. And there was this princess in the first one. She was also a teacher, and she was trying to explain how, like, her story, because if they graduate and they're pure good or pure evil, like 90%. They get their own fairy tale, and if you're the best in your class, the two best, girl and boy, you become like the prince and princess of that story, and the rest are like leaders, and then it goes into animals.
I can
and
see
so
why it's
on.
so popular.
It's because like they
It's
talk
very
about,
reminiscent of Shrek. This.
They
It
talk
starts reminding me of Shrek.
they talk about like Little Red Riding Hood and like
Yeah,
and good always
the
win
first
and stuff.
the first way they noticed that town that people were turned into storybooks is they'd noticed that, like, for example, one of the things they someone put a missing poster up, and it was like someone's daughter called Ella, and then a few weeks after she disappeared, not a few weeks, but I think
it was quite a while.
I think it was like a few years actually,
Yeah,
but
it's a lot longer.
But they noticed that there was a new story because magically books kept appearing in one person's book library kind of thing, and it was called Cinderella, and it was the same girl, and so
So it's a bit fairy tale as well as a bit magic.
so I really liked how it was combined between the two.
It wouldn't surprise me if, seeing how popular it is, in a way that Shadow and Bone has got so popular, they got a Netflix series. It wouldn't surprise you if this has a series.
Yeah, I don't think it does, but I was really hoping. After I read the first, I was really hoping they'd make one.
Louise.
There is a TV series set in a town where people are fairy tale characters.
There's something coming out.
Yeah.
Is there?
Oh, there we go.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
There we go.
Oh, well, I'm excited.
So
You said
So
something.
there are lots of books out there, aren't there, that are a lot about magic that are not Harry Potter and are not sort of big series as well.
Oh yeah, I read this other one, which I don't think it's that popular, but I'm not that sure. I think it's a trilogy. I can't remember them all, but I think the first one might be something like The Night Spinner, or something like that. I'm not really sure. Oh, it might be The Shadow Keeper, actually. And it's about this girl and her two best friends. I accidentally read the second one before I read the first one, thinking it was the first one. So that was a bit confusing, to be honest, and I only actually got because they kept referring to their old home in the second one, and I was super confused because I was like, their old home.
What happens in the first one? Then?
But I read the first one after the second, and the first one. So basically, the main thing is there is something called Shadow Keepers, a group of really evil people who kind of combine their souls in one, like, gem-looking thing. I think it's called like a black ice or something like that. I can't really remember. I read it quite a while ago. But the main character, Molly, so she rescues someone. So she originally gets kidnapped by some of the Shadow Keepers because they split up. Okay. But basically, she she finds someone in the camp who later they find out can't be seen to most people unless they really, really care for him. But it was tied to the last book, so I'm not going to explain that. But it's kind of I think in the first one they start off by living in a forest. I think they're kind of a clan. There's like the Raven clan, the stuff like that. Yeah, I think it's like that. I think it's something like that, and then it's like so they live in different areas. I think I might be confusing this with another book, but I'm pretty sure it's this book because I read it in a weird order. So so some of them live in like somewhere snowy. Some of them live somewhere. Some of them live in a beach, and some live in a forest. I think it's like that. Basically, she rescues someone from the camp, and they become friends. And then she's already got another friend who she introduces them to. So, and they all go on these like all sorts of adventures, trying to well, she's an orphan, but she was taken in by those people. It's trying to find out. I think it's kind of about trying to find out if her parents are alive, if they're dead.
And how does that connect to the shadow people?
Basically, so each of their names begin with shadow. So spell out the word Shadowkeeper. And one of them helps them. One of them's good. One of them helps them, but means she dies because they made a pact not to help anyone, like try and destroy them. So that person dies eventually, but
complicated.
Yeah, but basically it's about her. And I think in each book she kills like 2 of them, maybe something like that. Basically, it's about her trying to get rid of all of them and like eliminate them. And she has this kind of power. I can't really remember exactly, but I think she can kind of tell the future in a way, I guess.
This sounds very complicated.
It is kind of complicated, but yeah, it's I just really enjoyed it.
Epic fantasies with lots of world building often are complicated. That's the thing. You have to buy into the world building, the mythos, all the rest of it.
I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That's why I like ones like this. Yeah. Magic in the real world. They're a bit easier for like Ed to get around.
Yeah, I think this was set a short while back.
High fantasy, and then you got
high fantasy. Yeah.
I guess that's
what
fantasy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miss Ria.
Right.
So,
Thank you,
Miss Ria, a round of applause.
Thank you.
And next week, National Poetry Day.
Poetry Day. Bring a poem to talk about and read.
And hopefully we can.
Happening on Tuesday, I think.
Sorry, what's not happening?
Thursday?
It is Thursday, but I don't think it's happening on Thursday at school. I think it's happening on Tuesday.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I might be wrong.
Well, we'll wait and see. But yeah, bring a poem next Thursday.
Yes, bring a poem next Thursday.
And hopefully we'll have some time to do some blackout poetry as well. Bye.